We are in the last week of the Hall of Shame, and today we are studying Samson. Samson, there's no P in that word, regardless of how many times I say it. So, there is a lot to cover in this one, and we'll kind of see how it rolls for the day. We're going to start with a 5-minute kind of cartoon line drawing overview, and then either move around the room for each section of the story, just because it happens over, several decades, not a day or a week, and that kind of gets lost if you sit in one spot the whole time. So something along those lines. We'll start with the reminder of what a Nazirite is, that God went to his mother and father, Samson's mother and father, who were barren and couldn't have kids, and told them they were going to have Samson, that Samson's job was going to be, God was going to use him to begin the destruction of the Philistines. A Nazirite's rules, in addition to standard Jewish law, was that they could eat nothing from grapes, not the skin, not the seed, not the fruit, not drinks made from it. So no raisins, no fresh grapes, no wine, no grape juice. No razor must touch their head, period, ever in life. So 0 haircuts of any kind. Or during their vow, because it's actually unusual. This lifetime vow is actually very unusual. We only see it 3 times in scripture. And then they may not go near any dead body. It even says specifically, not even their mother or father's dead body. So it's for any Jewish person to go near a dead body makes them unclean, but that can be remedied over the course of a day or 7 days. And but for a Nazirite, it's not okay. It's just not okay. This may link to a little bit to Hannah and Samuel. Samuel is not a Nazirite vow. Hannah does not take a Nazirite vow on his behalf, but she does make a promise on his behalf. And we talked about that when we talked about Hannah and Elkanah and Samuel in our Hall of Fame. And so might link those together, that at first Samuel's commitment is made by his mother before he really has choice. But at some point, this becomes his choice because he continues to live out this God job in a really incredible and good way. So, starting with Samson, as we move around the room or however we do this, it starts with I want. Samson goes home and he's a young man and he tells his parents, I want to marry this hot girl that I saw, and she's a Philistine. And his parents are like, can we not find you a hot Jewish girl? And he's like, nope, want her. Because the Jewish people are not supposed to marry outside of the Jewish people, because God knows if they start doing that, then they're going to start following the religious customs and beliefs of those who they marry. So it's a huge no-no, but he does it anyway. And he's headed down to go meet this girl and her parents to see if they can make a deal for the marriage. And on the way, he gets attacked by a lion. And he kills it with his own hands, which is pretty incredible. And he just throws it to the side. Super interesting, but okay. So he goes, they make the marriage deal. He goes back home. Some point later, he and his parents are going back for the wedding. And he notices all these bees, and he goes over to check it out, and he realizes they're in the carcass of the lion, and he scoops out honey and he eats it. And he scoops out some extra and takes it to his parents, and they're like, hey, here, have some honey. And they're like, oh, sweet, that's awesome, son, thank you so much. Big problem though, right? He's not supposed to go near a dead body. Neither are they, but especially him. And he doesn't even just go near the dead body, he eats food from inside of it. Not okay, Samson. Not okay. So he makes them unclean by giving them food out of a dead body. He's definitely breaking his rules. So not okay. So he gets to the wedding, and I think I kind of picture him as really liking to be the heart of the party kind of thing. He's definitely loves attention. But he throws out this riddle. Smart guy. The riddle is, out of the eater something eat, out of the strong something sweet. Remember that weddings were like week-long parties back then. So he does this close to the beginning. The guys that he makes this bet with, he's like, hey, if you can guess this, I'll give you these prizes. If you can't, then you owe it to me. And the guys are getting stressed out because they can't figure it out. So they start begging his wife, go find out, go find out. So she cries, throws fits, all that kind of good stuff, until he finally tells her. Well, she does tell them. They get the riddle. He's furious because now he owes them all this stuff. He is angry. But verse 19 tells us the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. To me, that's really interesting. Comes upon him. He goes to a nearby Philistine town, kills 30 men, takes their clothes, because that was the prize, and gives the clothing to the other guys, and he leaves town furious. Well, his kind of new wife's dad is like, well, guess he's not coming back, and gives the daughter to be married to one of the other guys, because women aren't worth much then. So time goes by. We don't know how long, but Samson's no longer mad. He decides, I want to go visit my wife. He goes to find her. He goes to the house, and the dad's like, my bad. Didn't think you wanted to be married anymore. She's moved out. She's now remarried. So how is Samson reacting? Samson style. He's furious. He's ticked. He decides he has a right to be angry this time because they've married off his wife. So he goes out, and I have trouble even imagining how this would work. Catches 300 foxes. Now, I did read one commentary that said, nowhere does it say this happened in one night. Okay. 300 foxes. Ties their tails together in pairs with a torch, which is then lit between their tails. How does this happen? He releases the foxes into all of these fields and orchards and all this stuff, and it burns down all of this agriculture land of the Philistines. So they have no way to make money. They have no way to make food. It's devastated. The Philistines are furious, and they want to know who did this. And they're told Timnite's son-in-law, Samson. So the Philistines can't find Samson, so they punish Timnah and his daughter by killing them. How does Samson feel about this? You guessed it, he's furious. And he says, since you've acted like this, I swear that I will not stop until I get my revenge on you. Verse 8, he attacks them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave at the rock of Etam. So now Samson's playing hide and seek. He's back in the land of Israel. He is hiding in a cave. We don't know how long he's there, but finally the Philistines send some people, like 3,000 people, to go get him and bring him back to Philistia. And the Jews see him coming. The people from Judah see this army coming, and they go. They find him, and they're like, "Hey, you've got to go. You're gonna get us defeated, and we did nothing wrong. Like, this is all you, man." And he goes, "It's okay. Let them take me. Just make sure they won't tie me up." Okay, so that all works. He acts like they're coming toward him. He's not throwing a fit. He acts like he's going to let them tie him up. They tie him up, and then he pops his bindings like it's thread and finds the jaw of a donkey on the ground and proceeds to kill 1,000 men with a bone. Because, again, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him powerfully. So, God is doing what he said he was going to do. He's taking out the Philistines using Samson and his temper, right? So, he gets older. He's a judge for 20 years. And Samson continues to have problems choosing good women. And finally, the last situation that occurs is he is friends with this lady named Delilah. She's kind of his girlfriend. And some soldiers from the Philistines, from the government and all that, they go to her and they're like, "Hey, find out what makes him so strong and we'll pay you to, like, help us kill him." And she's like, "Cool, okay." So she begs him and cries and asks, and he keeps telling her random things. And then he would go to sleep, and she would do that thing and then yell, "Oh no, Samson, the Philistines are here. They're going to kill you." And he would jump up and he'd be strong because he lied to her, right? This happens like a bunch of times, but he keeps going back. So anyway, the last time she's like mega throwing a fit, mega temper tantrum. And he's like, fine. This is what happens. And he tells verse 17, he tells her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head because I've been a Nazarite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me and I would become as weak as any other man." Well, guess what she does? Yeah, she does it. She waits for him to go to sleep, shaves his head, calls in the soldiers, yells, "Oh, the Philistines are here." He gets up to like defend himself and he can't. He's super weak. So he is arrested. Gross alert, okay? Verse 21. "Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him to Gaza. Binding him there with bronze shackles, they set him to grinding grain in prison. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved." Next. We don't know how long this is, but it says finally later, the Philistines are throwing a party. They're offering sacrifices to their god Dagon. They have Samson brought in because they enjoy watching him be weak and be blind and stumble around. And it's this guy who used to be hugely powerful and now he's not. And they think that's hilarious. So they bring him in for their own personal entertainment. We don't know if they're doing stuff to him or not. They have him shackled and he's put between these two pillars. And he asks the guys in charge of him, he goes, "Put me in the middle." And so he's kind of in there, and the scripture says there's thousands of people. He's in this building that's got a ground level, and then up top there's a roof level with lots of people partying up there. And he's on these pillars underneath, and he prays, and he basically says, "God, give me strength one more time." And God does, and he pushes the pillars out, and the whole building comes down, and it kills thousands, like 3,000 leaders and government officials and soldiers and himself. So, is Samson a good guy or a bad guy? God tells his parents from the beginning, "I'm going to use him to begin the destruction of the Philistines." Does that happen? Yes. Is he a Nazarite? His parents made that commitment based on what God told them to do. God said he's going to be a Nazarite. They said, okay. They taught him those rules. They followed those rules for him when he was little. When he gets old enough to make those choices for himself, it really kind of seems like the only one he keeps is he doesn't cut his hair. So does he love and worship God? Does he obey God? Or does God use him anyway? Does God know? And I mean, yes, God does know our choices. God doesn't force him into things, but God knows his personality and he knows how he's going to react. Could he have married someone else and God used him in different ways to accomplish the same thing? We'll never know. But we do know he made bad choices. He didn't obey God. He didn't follow God's instruction. God still used him. And at the very end, when he was finally, "God, I recognize that you are God. Please give me the strength to destroy these people who've made a mockery of me and a mockery of you." And God says, absolutely. God can take our messes and use them for good. God will love us always. We can't make bad enough choices, even over and over and over again, that he will not love us and he will refuse to use us when we let him. And sometimes when we don't let him, he can use our bad choices for his good anyway, because he's sovereign. But let's remember, in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, Samson is included in the list of people who obeyed God. He is. None of us is going to obey God all the time. None of us. But he still finds us righteous through Jesus. And that's incredible. Application activities today. I really thought Play-Doh with the little squeezy things that made the hair. I mean, what else are you going to do? And then cut it off. And Corey said, isn't that Delilah? But it's still fun. So that's what we're doing. And if it's okay outside, we have the game Foxtail. And we'll play that. So thank you guys for leading.